Hey, can you hear me? Hi, Callie. Hi, Maddie. Wait, let me turn this up. This is Brandy and Riley. If you didn't know them, this is Brandy and Riley.
Do I stay plugged in or should I come out?
Oh, no, you can just stay clocked in.
Okay,
If you want.
plugged in. So am I supposed to or no?
Because I don't know. Yeah,
I just want to. I mean, I don't care. I'm here regardless. But it's like, am I supposed to or am I not supposed to? I haven't been home yet. Oh gosh. So went straight from Hester to my class to Starbucks, and I just came back here and sat down because I'm like, and I don't focus well if I. Yeah. Well, that's why I was like, I don't know. If I was like, I didn't know if that was ending at 8:30 or 8. I keep getting it confused. So I was like, am I gonna miss the meeting? But yeah, it's fine. Don't today and I'll ask you. Okay.
Sorry, guys. Had to handle something. Also, sorry, it's a couple minutes late. They ended practice at 8, so just giving them time to get all settled. I can go get one.
It's okay.
No, it's okay. I'm already up.
Something in the fridge? I always forget something in the fridge. We do need a pen.
Well, Brady asked for one, and then I got them in case they didn't work. Yeah, so I don't check.
I'm like,
I got hot, so I'm taking my jacket off. I'm like, must be old.
I'm all sweaty.
Okay, this feels so strange. So only strange because so I was telling Brandy, but I'll tell everybody. I was planning on having a projector so then like you guys could see it and then you could be on my screen and then you could see me and then you guys could see me. But we don't have the projector today. So now I printed stuff for you guys, but everyone might just have to look at my computer for sometimes. But that would mean also that they're seeing you. So we'll just kind of
sit there so you can be in the middle.
no, that's okay. We're all good, right? Everyone's cool. Cool.
Thumbs
Okay.
up. Good.
Hey, give us a thumb if you're good and ready to go. Okay, so oh god. Okay, it's fine. Obviously you guys came and it's for scoring. We all know that. So hi and thanks for being here. This is a lot, like the score sheet is really hard. So I'm glad you're trying to learn and we're gonna try and explain it the best we can. Stop me at any point if we have questions. I'm gonna do my best to explain, but it might take some time to like process and then get back to me later with questions because I didn't understand it the first few times looking at it. The first important thing is that there are a few different like governing bodies that we use as coaches and for routine stuff. The main three being USASF, varsity, and then United Scoring. Everything that you have in front of you here or the documents that I'm showing you guys is through United Scoring, which is what all scoring goes through now. Bye, Shelby.
Bye.
That used to be just varsity scoring, but they changed things and broadened it a little bit. So now like independent event producers can use this scoring too. And it's more standardized across the board for all scoring stuff. And so scoring wise, again, papers you have here, anytime you look at a score sheet, and this season, we're only going to ones that use this score sheet. So it's always United Scoring, like brand, I guess. Varsity is more so the competition brand companies. Like they own the different ones like Cheersport and stuff, the clothing brand or uniform. But they have little to do with scoring now. And then USASF is an important organization. Are you saying you were saying?
I know.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. Lisa, USASF handles legalities, deductions, when we send, well, not so much deductions, I shouldn't say that, but deductions in terms of legalities. So that's the who we send videos in when we're always like record it, and Shelby or I will submit them. We send it to USASF. They have the documents on rules for ages and what you can and can't do for each level and all of that stuff. So that's why each one of those three is important, but today we are focusing on United Scoring because that is our score sheet. Okay. Oh, I keep forgetting, can't press the button. Okay, so the first thing we're going to review, which is the first few pages here, is master score sheets. And so when you go onto the United Scoring website, there is a section for master score sheets, and each different division, novice, prep, elite, has their own master score sheet. And so there is a different one for tiny novice and mini novice. And we're going to start there. And so the biggest difference between all of them is the total points at the bottom. So you'll see it going up as we go through and get higher in level and division. But tiny novice and mini novice have less on their score sheet because they are only scored on basically technique and execution of everything. Difficulty is on there for the overall sections, but that's basically like if you do it well enough, you get it. It has more so to do with choreography. But what I always focused on whenever I was coaching a novice team was execution and technique of it, because that matters more than what you do. So I always told the kids, like, how you do your routine matters more than what you do in it. And that's why their points are so much less. And then you go on the next couple pages are prep, then there's elite level 1 and 2 mini, and then elite levels 1 through 3 youth and above. All three of those sections have slightly different scoring, and again the total points go up as you go through. They're all scored basically on the same things: difficulty, technique, or execution, whatever word you want to use there. And then drivers for each one. And those are the categories that we're going to break down as we go through the score sheet today. And then each section is worth more for these compared to novice, and as you go up, because what's required of you is more. And then everything for all of the divisions is scored out of like percent perfection at competition. And so whenever it says total, the highest we get to is 50, but once you have that score, it's doubled, which makes it out of 100, which gets you your like 90, whatever that like we all see at competitions. We're not scoring 50s. That score is doubled and makes your final score. And deductions, it's good to know that comes off of your after score. So deductions aren't doubled. They double your score, then take deductions off. So they're worth less in the case that a deduction happens. Okay, so I'm gonna spin this around just so I can not bend over the table when I talk, but from here on out, you guys have everything in front of you. Here's a sheet that we're on. You're welcome. But I apologize, those are out of order. So we're gonna go to the one that looks like this. It says level 1 at the top. Different level appropriate things. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So Now we're going to talk about level appropriate documents before we get into like the nitty gritty of the scoring. And I'm using level 1 as an example because that is the majority of the teams we have here. And then luckily that's what honestly everybody here coaches, basically a level 1 team or novice, which still fits this, or this would be your next step. And so a good place to start. And so these level appropriate documents, again, this is level 1, but there is one for each level if you were interested in going to look at more. They are super, super, super important. They are crucial for making your routine, making sure what you have in your routine is what you need. And so the top section is stunts, and then it goes into tumbling, separated, standing, and running. Each category, stunts and then tumbling, has different sections for level appropriate, advanced level appropriate, and elite level appropriate. You can see there how it's broken down. I'm not going to go through every skill on here because you can read that, and as you make your routine, reference back to this. But the basic thing that I wanted to bring this up before we go into the next part is notice how they are separated and just have a general idea in your mind, or if you can in person, have it next to you to reference as we go. The different sections, level appropriate, advanced level appropriate, and elite for each thing. I'm gonna go to the next page now, which goes into our overall scoring rubric. And we're gonna start with building. So you guys can go, you have the whole packet, but then if you just flip to the first page of that, here is where we are here. I'll turn this to you again because the red boxes help, but online, I'm here. I might just be behind the camera a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna start by talking about stunting. This page can look really overwhelming, and it is, and it's confusing, but I'm going to do my best to explain it, what makes sense to me, and hope that it translates. So as you can see here, the first thing you want to look at whenever you get to the score sheet is the quantity chart. And so on the side, you have the number of athletes, and across the top, you have the majority, most, and max. There's 3 words are really important, and the number increases as you go across there and as you go down. And so we will go with like just the middle range here, 18 to 22 kids, and use that as an example as we go through. And so if you had 18 to 22 kids on your team, you would need 3 stunt groups for anything that says majority, 4 stunt groups for anything that says most, and 5 for anything that says max. We'll talk about what really is needed because most times you only need to focus on those higher numbers, but that is how you read that chart. So as you go across, as you go down, find your number of athletes, and it tells you across what you need. Always reference that first, but then the next thing you want to look at is the difficulty chart. This first box in the top left for stunt difficulty gives you the bare minimum for what you want in your routine to get that amount of points. And so the change in scorings from what maybe a lot of us are used to, like what I had growing up, if you coached a while ago, it was all subjective. You could do 10 million things in your routine and still only get 2 points. Thankfully, they changed that now, and it is very, very, very much more objective. And almost everything is objective. We'll get to what's not later. But these charts tell you exactly what you need to do to get that number of points. So again, you can read the whole thing, but we will focus on this bottom 4.5 section. So to get 4.5 points for stunt difficulty, you need to do 4 level appropriate skills, 4 different level appropriate skills by most of the team. And so if we were using that 18 to 22 number, most of the team is 4 groups, and you need to do 4 skills. So you would want to have a stunt section with 4 level appropriate skills. You would find what you can do, options for that on that previous posted level appropriate document. Anything from there, but the word different does matter. There's like technicalities all through here. They have to be different skills. You can't repeat it. The skills can be rippled for stunts, but you can't reuse an athlete. So basically, you can't have one person fly in one stunt. If it's a ripple, then run down in front spot another one. That won't count. But doing what is listed in this first box, exactly like it says, gets you the bare minimum points. That is great. That's great if, especially at your first competition, but we know that we all want more than the bare minimum. So, it tells you how to get full points. That would not be your full stunt score. That would be full stunt difficulty. But then if you look at the next boxes below for stunt drivers, that's how you get the rest of your objective stunt score. So that would be another 1.5 points, 0.8 for degree of difficulty, and 0.7 for max participation. Okay. So this is where we get a little confusing, but again, I'm going to do my best and hope it's easy to follow. In that top box, you needed 4 level appropriate skills. Each of those skills is listed 1, 2, 3, 4 under degree of difficulty. If those are all just level appropriate, you stay up here at that 4.5 and don't get any more points. If any of those 4 are advanced or elite, you would put them in the boxes down below in degree of difficulty, and that's how many more points you got. So if you did all 4 skills, advanced skills, then you would get another 0.4 points, which is still not max, but the goal is all 4 being elite, which gets you an extra 0.2 for each, which is the full 0.8 right there. So far you would have the 4.5 because you're doing 4 skills. Then if they're all elite, you would have the additional 0.8. Okay. To get the other 0.7, you go to the next box below and you basically see what you're doing or where you want to fall, and then do that in your routine. And that one kind of lays it out for you. So if you do the first one, you get 0.3, second one, you get 0.5. Obviously, we all want the highest one. And so if you do another elite skill by max, so you have to reference your chart up here. And so for our number, that would be 5 groups. Doing 1 elite skill, that would get you the full 0.7. So easy way to look at it, if you're looking at this quantity chart, is the middle row is what you're going to need most groups doing, but the max row, the last row here, you're going to need one skill with that number, the higher number. I forgot to point out at the beginning of all of this is an elite score sheet, but I picked it because it has, and like instead of a prep one, because they all have the same information. But it is just a little bit different, like worded. Prep needs less. So thought if elite people were here, it would be better to explain that one, and then prep needs less things. So most of the prep elite differences happen in the what you need. We only need like 3 skills here instead of 4, but all of it would be read and interpreted the same. Okay. So that's all you need in your routine for stunts. So if we were going with the 18 to 22 number, you would need 4 elite skills by 4 groups and 1 elite skill by 5 groups to get your max points. Oops. Okay, so now we're going to talk about pyramid. Pyramid is one of those things that I mentioned before that is not objective any anymore. It is subjective, sadly, and there's a range for what you can get. So you have a pretty good guess at where you're going to score, but a 3.5 versus a 4 for pyramid difficulty is still a very wide range. And like that 0.5 off kind of sucks. So no one wants that. But there's no way to know what you're going to get. They tell you how to score in each range. So again, you can see that on there. To get in the high range, you need 4 different level appropriate skills and 2 structures performed by most of the team. If you do that, if you do what it says on there, you are probably going to get the 3.5 and not the 4. So if it says 4 different level appropriate skills, I'd shoot for 7 or 8. And honestly, probably still won't get a 4 because that's unlikely unless your pyramid is like so crazy creative and interesting and really fast. But a lot of skills, all of the structures set yourself up for the most difficulty points because they don't really need a reason to take off of there. They just can, and you can't fight that one. Even if you think your pyramid is the most difficult thing, there's no arguing their thought versus yours, unfortunately. So try to make it as difficult as possible. It tells you down below in the driver's section what to focus on to make it like even more difficult, or in that range, how to get it even better. So like if your team can't do more skills, the pace and connection is there. And so if you can even add like a little transition to make it faster or something, that could help it. And they lay that out for you. Those drivers do impact the score. I think the only other important thing for pyramid that I was confused on for the longest time is in that section, it says the 4 different level appropriate skills and 2 structures by most of the team. The most of the team there only applies to the structures. So you don't need the skills by most of the team. That can be by like cumulative groups for skills, but structures need most groups involved. So if your most number is 4, you need 4 groups and 2 structures, but not all 4 of those groups need to be doing the skills. They have it worded weird on there, in my opinion, because it makes it seem like both need to be most, but it's only structures that need to be most. And that is pyramid. Tosses are pretty standard. Honest, like I'm the only one here, I think, that needs tosses in our routine. Minis doesn't, prep doesn't, novice doesn't. If you ever get to the point where you need tosses, you just reference this section. If you do enough of them, you get the points. Gonna move on from that. Okay. That was a lot. I hope it wasn't too confusing, but do you have questions on stunts, or anyone have like specifics to their team that you need me to answer or go over?
Maybe for me, like how many?
Yeah, how many people are on?
I think that
Landers.
we're going to have maybe 14 if that girl.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, so whoops. If you're on Zoom, I have the prep one. So if you're referencing, oh wait, it's not up, you can't see it. Never mind. I'm using prep now, so don't get your numbers confused. Okay.
So I think we're gonna be in this range.
Okay. So you would need 3 level appropriate. You would need 3 skills by 2 groups. And 1 skill by 3. And then where is this one? For prep, so the number is different here. Elite has 4, you need 3. But what else is different is ours for prep can be advanced or elite. So you can do any
So just say you need to pick 4 skills total, 4 stunting skills, and they can be anything in any of these. Yes, 4 of any of those bullet points, different ones, 4 different bullet points, and you're good.
So many marbles isn't on this.
No, because they don't get scored on, they don't, not skilled.
Okay.
So you can, like use this for stunting and tumbling options for novice
Okay.
teams, but, you could do a forward roll and score better than a back walkover if your forward roll looks better than a back walkover.
Okay, what about? Is that the same for prep or no?
No,
Okay.
we'll get to tumbling here in a
Okay,
second.
sorry.
No, that's okay, that's okay. Prep does do like skills for
Okay.
different scoring. Not novice. Yeah, novice, the only, this one that. Oh, sorry. Here. Yeah, that one. Is the big one that matters, and then, there is, this is online, but if you wanted to take a picture of it, this is like in detail technique of like breakdown for novice, but it's all, there's no difficulty on there, that's just like what to look for each thing that you do.
Is this one mine? Oh, thank you.
Um,
I don't know if it is.
yes.
Oh, wait, I have to do it again. Can you send me that one? Yeah.
These that I have here, people on Zoom and in person, all of these ring, are like score sheets for everybody. And like every possible team in the gym, we have tiny novice, mini novice, prep, elite. And they are gonna be hung on the bulletin boards right out here, so if you need to reference them later or at a practice, they're available to you.
I do have a question about the drivers.
Yeah.
So I love how I see the, where you can increase the drivers, but when I get my score sheet back and it's a negative driver, how can I tell what that negative driver is for?
So. Okay, so for stunting difficulty, you probably. I don't want to say it too confidently, but you probably have never been taken off a difficulty driver that is like that if you're doing the right amount of skills. So like that 4 stunt groups doing the same thing.
Okay.
The ones you're talking about, like when it says like -0.2 and stuff, that is on technique, that will be later. We'll get to that, and I'll try to answer that, and if I don't, ask again, and I'll try harder. But so I guess good question though. The drivers that I already talked about are difficulty drivers, and so those are all, if you do it as the score sheet says, you'll get those driver points. There are execution drivers that aren't like that, but we'll get to that later. This is all difficulty right now.
Somebody just asked a question because I'm not really sure
Yeah.
about a driver.
Mhm.
So like, can you give me an example of what a driver would be?
Yes. Okay. So
Sorry.
no, it's okay. It is so confusing, and it takes a lot of like thought and learning and process to like see it and then do it and everything. For
Like you don't have to explain it in a prep, like probably you can explain it another level, and I might like be able to focus.
the drivers that are on this that you're talking about, on Zoom, we're talking about these drivers. Think of them as stunt difficulty.
Okay.
So that right here
is this score. So
Okay.
you have difficulty,
Mhm.
technique that we haven't gotten there yet.
Mhm.
And then this is this 1.5. It is objective. This is all of this is your stunt driver. They separated the boxes,
Mhm.
but stunt drivers are degree of difficulty and max participation.
Okay.
So to get these 0.6, you need 0.2, 0.2, 0.2.
Okay.
And to get this 0.4, you need this 0.4.
Okay. So let me just try to. So say I needed on my team to have 4 preps.
Mhm.
And all 4 groups did the 4 preps.
Mhm.
Is that how, like, if they were, the technique was good, is that how I would get that, or am I not getting that?
Yes, but without the technique, you could do it
Mhm.
and have the worst technique in the world. But if they were in the air, you got these.
Okay.
If you did the skill. So each one of these 4 that we said pick,
Mhm.
if you pick 1, 2, 3, 4 random
Okay.
ones, you plug that in here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And the skill would just have to be in the advanced or elite?
Yes.
Okay, and then once you got your techniques score, that would be added to all of this.
Yes.
That's how you get your total score.
Yes, if these 4 are in these 4 boxes, you have full points here and here. And the only thing you have to worry about is
It's the
here.
execution, which is kind of like your technique. So
Yes.
if you had bent legs or.
That's where all that would come.
Okay, all right, I got it.
Better?
I had to
Okay.
break-
Yeah, no, no,
break it down into my. Sorry.
better? No, don't be sorry. Good, I'm glad. Okay.
And can I just say something?
I guess.
Brandy, this Avery and I are like, when we make the Blue Angels routine, like we definitely go off of this score sheet. So we're also like gonna make up your routine based on this. And it might be helpful maybe if we like have one of these printed out, or if we recreate it some way to list like the skills that we are putting in. So then you can like clearly see like this would be the
Okay,
advanced or elite skill 1, this would be the advanced or elite skill 2, so you know like where on the score sheet that kind of correlates to. And then if you ever wanted to change anything or make anything harder in the future, then that would be like something that you could reference your score sheet for again.
that's what I was gonna add that last point too, like even elite team choreographers definitely go off of this and put in what you need. Same with us for prep, Shelby for novice. But the reason why this is so important is if you were to change something, you knew that you weren't like jeopardizing your score for that. Yeah. And so you like are working on the right stuff, you know, if you go in tomorrow and you know what skills you need, you might change how you go about it. Yeah. Okay. Oops, tumbling and jumps. Okay, so that's the next page. Top should say tumbling. Yeah. Okay. Now that we kind of have stunting down, tumbling is a little bit easier to understand because it's easier. You need less, but also it's set up the same way. So you first have your tumbling and jump quantity chart on there. And that is broken down the same as stunting, but the requirements are different. Obviously there are more numbers because you don't only need 2 jumpers and stunters on a team of 15. But we will stick with the 18 to 22 number on here as an example, and go from there. So always reference that quantity chart as you go forward. Okay. Jump difficulty is kind of the same as basket tosses. If you do what is asked of you, you get those points with no extra like thought or plugging it into boxes and determining your score like stunts were. So for elite teams, you need to do 3 jumps total. 2 of them have to be connected. For the younger teams, novice doesn't have a jump requirement for like what to do or how many. It's again just if you do it well. Prep is 2 advanced jumps and they don't have to be connected.
So I could have one person jump.
Mhm.
How
That
much are you gonna be jumping? Oh my God.
the hard thing with novice is, yes, I know you were joking, but like, right? But
That bad, you know, it's not.
it's tempting though. Me and Maddie would do the same thing on mini marbles. We'd be like, well, if only this person did the whole thing, then like we're gonna score well. But there's a lot of points on novice that go into like overall impression
how
and
many
stuff.
people?
And so it looks better if you do more. They will like think your routine's harder if you do more. And so it's just a fine line of like, we want it to look good, but like, don't want
It's
to
gonna look awkward if we do all
things.
things.
Yeah, unless your choreography like could be really cute without it though. Yes, not a requirement though for jumps. I guess, yeah, Big Brother's on. The 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 wording for jumps like on the score sheet is important, but it is more detailed on like elite. Again, for prep, they don't have to be connected, you just have to do 2 jumps. And then the only important, like major important thing, I encourage everybody to like read all of these little bullet points, but they say that a pike, hurdlers, toe touch, and double 9 are the only advanced jumps. So you can't make up your own, you can't do a tuck jump on prep or elite. You can on novice. Only out of those 4 are what you can choose from for your jumps. But again, jumps are pretty easy. For difficulty, we're not into execution yet. Do what it says and get your points. Okay, standing tumbling, as you can see on the score sheet or with these boxes, now it goes, the red boxes aren't like right next to each other. Standing tumbling is on this side for basic difficulty, and then what you need is on the other side. This is very similar to stunts, and so I hope if it makes a little more sense now, this will be easier to plug in. On the left side where it has the numbers here, that gets you your bare minimum tumbling score. So if you do what it says in that bottom box, then you get that number of points. You need to have 2 standing tumbling passes and 2 running tumbling passes for elite. For prep, it's only 1 of each. And so you plug it in over here again, and whatever it fits into is the amount of points that you get. So total, it'll be on this one. Yes. Total standing tumbling points are whatever, 3 plus what, 4 out of 4. And then same thing for running. Oh no, that's 3.5 for, that's 4, 3.5 and 0.5. Yeah.
Wait, never mind.
Okay. So you would need, it's most, right? Yes. Okay. You need 7 people tumbling. Are you looking at running or standing or both?
Both.
Okay. Okay. 7 people. If they do an elite skill for both areas. So if you do 1 thing here by 7 and 1 thing here by 7, you get max tumbling points.
Okay.
You have the option to do the other boxes, you just get less points.
Okay.
Biggest thing for tumbling, which is a change this season, is tumbling is, let me confirm it on here before I make the statement. Yes. I wanted to make sure it wasn't different for prep before I was so confident about that. Biggest difference is
standing tumbling and running tumbling can be cumulative this year. So you are not required to do any group passes. It's the easier way to do it. If you just have 7 people do one back walkover, great, you get your points. If you only have 4 that can do them, you could have 4 go together and then the same person do 3 more randomly in the routine, and that's your points. 7 in your routine total, or whatever number yours is in your routine total. And that gets you your max points. Again, for difficulty, not technique yet. I'm gonna shut that door. Sorry. Okay. Running tumbling is, there we go, is basically the same numbers. You need the same like amount of things, and it doesn't have to be cumulative. For prep, for elite, it's more than 1 pass. We need 2. And then it's different scoring based on what you do. It's just broken down more. But those 2 are just very similar in what they need for both of those. Since we're talking about level 1 here, the only other big thing that they mentioned at the conference when we were going over scoring is pace of your tumbling matters. They won't be as lenient this year with counting things like as a double back walkover if you pause for a long time in between. They recommended no more than like 1 to 2 counts, like a hold 1, 2. If you can get shorter than that, get shorter than that. But try
We
not
got
to do
called
that.
out at the open with that. We held it too long.
Yeah. And last year, United scoring was more lenient than the open scoring, but this year they're taking the opens lead and just being strict about that, because if it's supposed to be connected, then it's supposed to
When
be
does it
connected.
count? Like when your hands are off the floor and you're just sitting up with your feet, or like when you're up?
When you're up at a cone, like
Yes.
that's what they
Okay.
got us, like we were like 1, 2, and back raise has to be almost like we went back 2. And that's what they said to us. We're like, we've been doing it all season.
Yeah.
No one called us out.
Okay, so it
Yes.
has to be like a 1 count.
They said 1 to 2 at the conference. It's hard to say. I mean, because like the open, it's different than United. Like they said 1 count at the conference, they said 1 to 2. And so it's kind of like as short as you can make it that short. But you don't want to make it too fast and then risk technique scores, because then it's like, why are you doing it anyways? But make sure everyone is doing it the same is what they said, like on your team. And then don't hold for too long, because then that will be counted as separate passes overall. Okay, I think that covers the jumps and tumbling from here. Are there any questions on tumbling and jumps or comments that I forgot to mention or anything?
Jumps. I don't know, that's just gonna be hard.
Whatever looks the best. Right?
Yeah, I think, well, so for prep, you don't have to do 2 different.
I don't. I thought
No, you can do 2 of the same.
okay.
2 advanced jumps, they have to be so those can't be cumulative, they have to be synchronized. So you need 9 people doing 2 jumps at the same time, but not connected. It doesn't have to be a double jump, and it doesn't have to be a variety. So you could do 2 toe touches, 2 pikes, 2 hurdlers,
Okay,
or
I'm good then.
variety if you choose, but we never chose that.
I'm like,
Start having them like film them and decide who they are before they come into your choreography. That always helps me so much, because when they come in, they're gonna be like, who are your best jumpers? And you want to be ready.
I think we already have a formation. Well, like
the front people who want them.
Who you know are better, yeah, trustworthy at
Yes,
least.
I can remember.
Um, but yes. Not, well, they raised, I am like not happy about it. But it doesn't matter, I don't have any say in it. They raised this jump number to this last column this year. It used to always be like the middle number. And so like every team needs like at least, what is it, 2 or 3 more. Prep isn't that bad, but like on flag girls, we have 21 people and 18 of them need to jump. And so like you got 3 people who can be not so great jumpers, and like if more than that, you're just out a lot because we have more than 3 that like shouldn't be in it. But I think their thought was like jumps are something that are always needed and kind of easy to practice at home and on your own and stuff. So most people should be able to do it, unfortunately. So we need more.
I thought there was a change. I'm glad you
Mhm.
pointed that out.
Yeah, they raised that number. It's not as easy. Okay, next page. This should be pretty standard for every like type elite, novice, prep. If not, I haven't looked at them in a lot of detail. If it's not like the same, I would suggest looking at the elite version, which is what I printed and what I have on here, because that is going to be the strictest version. And if you play to that one, then you're setting yourself up better. So the execution page, there is only one. Remember, execution is another word for technique. And so that's how you do what you do. Everything else we talked about today is what you do in your routine. This page is all about how you do it. So there's boxes for each one, as you can see, and it lays out what will be taken off for. So I'm gonna skip the first 2 boxes for a second. Oops, I didn't mean to cover my camera. I'm gonna skip these first 2 boxes and go to the bottom ones. I'm not gonna read every single thing, but just to point out, they tell you exactly what to focus on for every single thing. The stunts are broken down by stunting position and gives examples of the drivers for each. So drivers here are technique drivers. They don't have specific objective scoring measurements, but these are all technical examples of things that can be taken off your execution score for, again, stunt and pyramid, any type of tumbling, any jump, and on the elite one is tosses. What I usually do once I have my routine and it's getting to the point where we're hitting, or as you're going through and correcting things, always have all of this in mind. And once you're in competition season, then I would have this printed out at practice and just watch your routine and go through like you were a judge and say, would I take off points for, and go down the line. And then that's what you have to fix. Now jumping back up to the top for those 2 boxes that have a score. This first one that has a 4 in it. So the very first box that we see at the top left is the 4 points for execution of stunt, the 4 points for pyramid, 4 points for standing, and 4 points for running. So that is all separate. If you look back to that master score sheet that I have, each one, it's the wrong one, each one is execution 4 points. It's not a total of 4 points. And then in that box, it gives you how much they take off for each. So Lisa, this goes back to your question of on our score sheet, we probably all have seen it. I'm sorry, I should have, it might have been a good idea to have an example score sheet from last year, but I don't, I'm sorry. On your score sheet, when you get it, you have your difficulty scores, and then they write out how much technique they took off for each thing. So again, it tells you on here, 0.1 is minor technique issue, 0.2 is multiple through the team, 0.3 is widespread, and then no more than, so 0.3 is the highest you could get taken off for each driver. But for stunts, look how many drivers there are. So that could be 0 out of 4 for technique if you get 0.3 off for all of them.
but it'll say on your score sheet, minus, this is an example, but minus 0.2 lockout bottom legs and stunts for top person. So you go to this sheet, 0.2 is multiple technique issues by the team. So maybe half to 3/4 of your flyers had unlocked knees, and under stunt driver for top person, like straight locked legs is on there. So you know that that driver is what they took off for, and it was that amount of people. If it was 0.1, just say they took off minus 0.1 for body control and a back walkover. And you're like, oh yeah, that was my girl in the back corner, because you got one kid on the team that never can control their body. But
It does take points off the driver.
for technique.
Okay.
Yes. These are technique. This page has nothing to do with this won't change your score for anything we talked about before.
Okay.
This is a different category. But it lays out exactly what they're taking off for. Not exactly. I kind of wish they would go into more detail, because like minor, multiple, and widespread just aren't really clear. But they're doing better. So it tells you, if it was like one person versus half of your team with what they take off. And it gives you a pretty good idea of what to focus on. I think kind of similar to what we talked about with pace of tumbling. Another important thing they pointed out at the scoring session at the conference is that the way you do, we talked about this in our other meeting too, but the way you do things doesn't necessarily matter in terms of your style or your gym preference. But as long as everyone on your team is doing it the same way, then you'll get it taken off. So you're not going to get 0.3 off because a judge doesn't like a cone in a back walkover. If everyone's doing a cone, that's fine. But if your cone has bent arms and is funky, then you'll get points taken off. They don't care about this, whatever you want to do. But there are basic technical things laid out here that they will take off for.
Avery, I sent you one of our score sheets from Blue Angels in text. So if you wanted to share your screen now at the end of the meeting, or once we get off, if you want to go in more detail with anybody that's there, you can pull that up.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It is on there. Okay. So again, that was technique. Doesn't take off your difficulty. The final score sheet, what you get after you compete, when it's given to you, printed or emailed to you. The last bit on there is this section, which is overall sections. I am not going to go into detail on each one, but I just have like a box on each to point out that they score formations and transitions, routine creativity, dance, and showmanship. These are all part of that subjective scoring, where it gives you a range and the judges pick. And basically, the more that you do and the better that you do it, the more points you'll get. But there's no way to tell for sure. The only thing broken down into difficulty and execution on here is dance, but that is still, both of those are still subjective. So you could think you have the hardest dance in the world, but you could still get a 0.5, but it tells you the listed on here are both technical and difficulty points for how to make things better and get your score up. They do a decent job at describing how to give yourself the best score. Routine creativity, that like second one down, the only thing that's pointing out there is that overall judge, building judge, and tumbling judge all impact over a routine creativity score, and that gets combined to make your score. So they just point that out because when people complain like, oh, well, one person didn't think my routine was creative, it's the whole judging panel, or half of it at least, that's averaged out. This page, numbers might be different for novice, and prep is probably pretty similar to elite. But all of this is included on every score sheet. So like what I was talking about before with overall impression and creativity and stuff. This page is included for novice too, so it's an important one to look at. But again, it's all detailed there. You can read it and see how to get it better. Okay, so, oh no, we got a deduction on our routine. Thanks, I like that one. And I, again, am not going to talk about each one, but just wanted to point out that there is a deduction system. It's standardized and written out for everyone to see here. Everyone has access to it. It's just online. And so, you know, like when you come off the floor and you had XYZ happen, you know exactly how many points are going to get taken off for it. They describe it all there for like what the options for it could be, and what it doesn't include. And so there's not really any fighting how much you get. So like you can't ask them to change the amount. If you know you're you got a stunt bobble, it's going to be a 0.25, but you can fight. Like if they said it was an athlete fall, but you saw it and it fits into the category of building bobble, you can fight something like that, but just not how much gets taken off, because again, they laid it all out for you. Excuse me. Then we're going to talk about quickly challenging scores or deductions at competitions. I want to put it out there that usually Shelby or I will do this part for you or be there with you. So it's not so scary and you don't need to know it, but just in case, I wanted to include it in here. There's forms that you fill out when you go to AccuScore, and there's a deduction review form. So that would be what I was just talking about. If they called something wrong, not point value, but if they called it a fall and you know it was a bobble, that form is there and you can fight that. If it is stunt difficulty or tumbling difficulty, so they said that you only had 6 tumblers, but you know for a fact 7 people did a back walkover, that is that second sheet, the routine review form for building, tumbling, whatever, that you go and fill out. And then they will watch a video, they'll call you back and tell you yes or no if it got approved or not. Biggest thing to know here is you can fight, you can go and fill one of these out and you can fight difficulty. Because that is stunt difficulty, tumbling difficulty, jump difficulty, not pyramid. You can fight the objective stuff. You cannot fight the subjective. So you cannot go and say that they scored your pyramid wrong. You cannot go and say they scored your dance wrong. You cannot go and say that we actually had straight legs in our back walkovers. Anything subjective, you can't fight it. If it's objective on the score sheet, we can fight it. Might not always get approved, but you can try.
Can't they like take more things off if they watch it again?
Yes. So you don't always want to go and fight it. Again, one of those situations that if you like, that's where it gets like sticky, because only in certain situations, like if your routine was perfect, but they didn't count something and you wanted to fight it, absolutely, even if you weren't sure they were going to give it back to you. But if you were like, well, I should use me as an example. I feel like this has happened with me. If you were like, no, Shelby, I'm going to fight it, I'm going to fight it, I'm going to fight it. But she was like, Avery, like that other stunt bobbled and they didn't say anything. And I'm like, no, it didn't, I promise. Well, that's never happened. But she like, then they could watch it back and say, no, you're keeping that one. Oh, and also while we were watching that, we saw your other stunt bobble and give you more off. So just be smart about what you're going to fight, because they can take more off. We didn't get more points taken off. I just wanted to fight it and Shelby said no. She was probably right, but just saying.
We do get props off every time, and even though we get them approved, I wonder if they're going to change that this year and that we don't get a deduction and then we have to go back and just show proof that we have everything, because we have props.
Yeah. I should do that some different way because we do it way too many times to be like
Yeah, once it's approved, it should just be like.
done.
It
It should be
should
for the
be.
whole season, honestly. I don't know why we have to do it for every single, it's like not even every single competition. It's every day of each competition. We have
Yes.
to do it. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why. Um. Yeah, okay. Deductions. I was feeling I was feeling quirky when I was making this PowerPoint, I guess. Because that's how I still feel about scoring and everything. And I've been involved with it for a while now and like trained on it a bunch of times, but it is way too much information and especially all at once, really hard to understand. So I basically put this in here because it is a lot and it's okay if you're confused or have questions. And if you think of one tomorrow or the next day or in 2 months from now that you're like, oh, I really don't get it, I need more help, just reach out because it's hard and there are still parts of it that I don't fully get. So I'm sorry if it was overwhelming. It's a lot, but we all feel the same way. It's a lot for everyone. Then that's the end. Any questions on anything that I can, again, specific or general to your team or the gym or scoring that I can answer or try to make easier?
See you tomorrow, Cheyenne. See you guys.
Oh, great question.
What
Um,
question?
Where did he print it off from?
Oops.
Um,
Oh. So the reason those hearts were up was I was gonna put a thank you slide with the heart, but then I was like, maybe too much love. Not everybody wants that. Okay, so this is where they are. So you could just, I type in United Scoring Partners on Google. And this will come up and you just click the first one, the one that has the logo that looks like that's on the front here. And it has everything you need. I kind of went in the order that it had on here, almost, but it has those master ones that we first talked about. It has the level appropriate documents, then each scoring rubric. When you're on this page, when you click one, pay attention to what you're clicking on after that. The prep and novice ones are pretty self-explanatory down here for what to pick. But then as you get like into other things, it's just like a lot of options, all those different score sheets. Same thing here, pick the right level. They have the deduction sheets and everything. I am also going to show you how to get to, if you type in USASF rules and then the year. This is where you'll find everything that is legal or not legal for your level. And it also, this is like the glossary of all terms. So at a back bend, backward roll, barrel roll, base, everything. And that's important because when you get to, a lot of pages, but whenever you get to your level, so like it gives every level 1 stunting rule, what you can and can't do. And it might just have terms that you're like, well, what exactly do they mean by a spotter and a bracer and a back and all of that?
what was that USASF?
USASF rules, and then I always just type in the year because they change it a bunch. Yes. That's what you should reference for if you have legality questions, like if your video that we submit comes back illegal, and then you're like, well, how do I make it legal? This is good to reference because it might tell you right there, like it just needs to have a handhold assist if you're turning like out of a stunt, quarter turn or something. So it tells you. Okay. Does anybody, I don't does anybody want me to pull up a score sheet? Would that be beneficial? Or do we feel like we're okay? I don't want to force people to stay here longer, but if anyone needs
I
it.
have a question actually for you and Natalie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
All right, so I want to try and emulate this, what you guys do with your routines, and I don't know quite how you do it, but when you have a routine there's the showmanship built in. And then when you do your practices, you're practicing with the facials. So at what point, like right now, we're just trying, we're struggling, learning the counts and everything. When do you work in those facials? Like, what's that magic? How do you do that?
I think the magic, Maddie, you can jump in or correct me.
Yeah, everyone's fine. I don't know what it was. It just fell off. Something just fell off the ceiling.
Big or small?
Some big, somewhat, or something.
Something
just fell off the
Oh,
ceiling. I was like, on the ceiling.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh.
I thought she
said someone too.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I'm not. Thank God.
I was like, so I was like,
I'm not gonna pick it up in case you want.
I'll get it, yeah, thank you, Marley.
Yeah, that was quite, yeah.
Roof is falling, like,
I thought first
Like-
someone was dead out
Yeah,
there and then,
but she was too calm.
yeah.
It is a part of-
right,
It is a part of the roof. But
maybe it's our air
Like,
conditioner unit,
it's hot. I don't know.
probably, okay.
Oh
my gosh. Roof is falling in. We're like,
Surprise,
like-
we don't have a roof. Sorry.
So
Okay,
how do you,
so,
when do you
yes.
start and how do you do
Yeah.
that?
So, again, Maddie, jump in or add on for whatever I miss. But I think there's a lot that goes into the magic of it, but we do it from day one. Like, I think if people were watching Starstruck, our mini prep team right now, we actually go home every day, not just random people, and ask them what their parents, like, we like think to ourselves, what are their parents feeding them? And I have no idea how they are like they are, because they step on the mat and they are immediately like soldiers, in everything that they do with their face on. But then, like, we talk about it and we think about it, and it is because they had no other option from day one. Like, when we do not just like review counts for your brain or like mark through it to hope people remember. It's like anytime we do anything, the expectation is that you're tight and have a wow face on. And I think the other part of that is what you model at the front of the mat. I'm insane when I coach in many, many ways, but people watching us coaching might think we are even more insane, because like we're telling them to stand tight and we're not just like, guys, stand tight. Come on, we want you to stand tight. Like, it's like, okay, stand tight. And then they copy and imitate exactly what we're doing. And that I think goes a long way, because they're good. I mean, they're kids. That's what they do in nature. Like, developmentally, they model and they imitate what they see. And so, if you're giving them something to model that you don't want, then you're setting yourself up for not failure, but less than you want. Maddie?
Yeah, I was gonna say probably the biggest thing is like being exciting and responsive at the front of the mat. Like Avery was saying, we always try and do facials and wow face, because I wouldn't want to be like performing to a brick wall or someone with a blank face. I would probably feel silly doing that. And so if you're looking at someone who also looks kind of crazy, it makes you more comfortable to like be bigger with your face. And then we always make sure to point out when people are exciting and people do have facials and people are doing wow face, especially if you didn't ask them, or for something small. Like Fly Girls, we make sure they try and do a wow face anytime they set out of a stunt or whenever they land their jump. And so when we see people doing that without being prompted, we want to make sure to point that out, because it's just not something that happens all of the time. And when you give that recognition, other people hear it and it's just positive validation.
I think we kind of talked about this last year, Lisa, for your team started implementing it. But the other thing that we do is it's part of choreography for us. So instead of like, if you're setting out of a stunt, instead of it just being 3-4, the count is like 3 wow. And so you like catch your stunt, hold 1, 2, 3, like that's wow. Like 4 is that's part of your routine now. Like, whether the choreographer gave it to you or I did, that's just what you do. Saying it helps a lot. Like, have the kids say wow when they do it.
But when you make it like part of the choreography, and even so, like we're talking about wow face, but even there was like one time on Blue Angels a couple years ago, I don't know, like we gave them a count to like lean and stand, like when if you want that like impact of some of those teams do like a shrug or something or a head tilt, make it choreography, not just like okay, like I hope we would do this and make it optional.
It won't happen unless you do it, and
Yeah.
that's part of the practice.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like how you point out the kids that are performing, because then other kids are like, if they aren't performing, they'll want you to say, good job, maybe next practice so they'll do it. Have you ever had anybody just be stubborn and not perform for you? Maddie's doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say, I mean, not so much. I think this year's going pretty well. Not to name drop or blame anyone, but Coley Taylor is someone that we've always struggled with on Blue Angels. And I mean, I don't know, maybe by the end of last season, she a little bit started to smile, but sometimes, yeah, you just can't get across to people, but we kept trying and we kept trying in like whatever way we could.
I think you have to like out stubborn them sometimes. But
Do you think sometimes coaches give up on someone and they just then ignore it after a while rather than
And-
just keep not trying?
yes, I think being like sticking to, and this is like the change I kind of talked about at the meeting, and I'm really trying to change my mindset of like, it's not a rule and it's not a punishment and it's not like a negative thing, but our standard, the standard is that you have a wow face, that you perform in your routine. That's the expectation. And so like something that we do with the little ones to get them in that is we're not starting to count. I'm not pressing play until you are in your opening pose, standing tight and with a wow face on. And the one time that you do start counting, that you do press play with one person like this, then they don't believe you. Then the next time, like you lost all like street cred, like they're not gonna be like, no, he's not gonna hold me to that. And then someone, their partner saw that, and then they're like, oh, I don't have to smile either. And then it just like trickles down. And so holding every single person, no matter how much you think they're not gonna do it, to that same standard and expectation is huge for getting what you want out of that. Because the more they know that, oh, they're serious, then the more they're gonna meet that standard.
Right. And I wish I could say that every single team has that standard, but it would be lying to say that everybody has that performance. And a friend of mine that she was watching our routines and she said, you're good, but it looks like you're just marking it. But because you've got that performance, it doesn't look like it's marking it, but it's actually what you're saying is you're doing it every practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like for Ayana on Mini Marbles,
Give
say I'm like, say I'm like, everyone needs to be smiling before I start counting. Oh my God.
Why?
But then she like won't smile. Like will not smile.
Or she will
Or like we'll just be like and like throws herself on the floor. Like am I still just being like until Ayana smiles and is standing tight, we're not starting.
Yes.
Cause like I don't know that she like you know
she
how
might
like
her
eyes
like this.
yeah.
I think it that is a very, very, very hard situation. You have those kids that like it's not stubborn, it's behavioral, and it's partially, in my opinion, had to put that out there, like developmental reasons why we can't do things, and you can't hold people to that same standard if they're not there. Like that's what we talk about or talked about, like when I mentioned like meet the kid where they are. And so she might not be at that level where everyone is, but that I don't think that necessarily means changing it for everybody in that case. We kind of have talked about this too, so I'm sorry if you've tried it and it still didn't work, but I would then go to punishing the rest of the team unless she doesn't do it, and then she might realize. I would go to highly, 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 highly praising when she does the littlest thing right. I would go to having her sit out or lose out on something that she likes or a parent meeting. If it doesn't stop. And
Would you say like maybe have a discussion with her mom to let her know what you're doing and that you're trying to bring out a performance and this is what we're trying to get her and she does this and so that when you do then start to
Cause
put
she's
down.
like the only one that I would like ignore because like I don't sometimes know what else to do. Because if you sit her out, she doesn't care. Like she doesn't want to do it. So it's like, you're gonna sit me out, fine, I want to sit down.
And it is when you get to kids like that, like I know I was talking before, like there's this standard, everyone has to be able to do it. I don't think that's realistic because there are like kids like that, there are athletes like that, I mean, there's one for everyone, like I'm thinking of someone that I have that's older, that you go through every strategy, praise, punishment, ignoring them, like any behavioral strategy that you can think, like immediate reward, anything, and it still doesn't work. And so it's like, do I suggest waiting all practice for her to stand tight? Probably not, because then that's putting the rest of the team behind because of that. When I don't think she would realize what happened. Like I think like 10 minutes later when you were like, well, look, the rest of the team did nothing for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one.
What about placement of her in the choreography? Maybe don't have her centrally located and have her in the back more, even if she, like just, I don't know how good she is. Is she that good? Is she?
It's just frustrating because whenever she does it, like I feel like she does a good
She
job.
could
Like
be good.
it's just she's a great base. Like she's very strong. And whenever she wants to do the jump, like if she does it, it's like
That's
she
the
does it
thing.
on the
I
count
think
and
she
it's
just
like
doesn't want to.
yeah.
To
And
do
it's
it.
almost like she's doing anything she can to get attention, whether it's positive or negative.
That's why
how
I'm like, do I
feel.
ignore it?
So
Because she just
maybe
wants-
if you do, like I did a lot of toys and things like that, the kids that get things right, they get to pick, like I would line up, I hate to say this, bribery works great at the dollar store, a whole bunch of like little stuffed animals. And if they got it and they got to pick out a toy, and hopefully everybody gets one, but it may be a practice where she doesn't get one. And then that would be positive for everybody else, but for her, she's like, well, maybe I should, get creative, like.
I think, and then that, like, that was something to try. I know you have ring pops sometimes, and like whenever I was there over the summer, we did use lollipops, and I felt like from what I saw, it was like hit or miss with her. Either she really cared about getting a lollipop or not, or she didn't care at all. And again, we talked about before, is I think with her, your next step, I mean, if you want to try any of this again, or like more hardcore, go for it. But your best bet for a next step would be having her mom come in or have a meeting, like either come in and sit on a practice, but like, or have a meeting before. And I think like Shelby or me and Lisa, whoever, the combination of the three of us can help you put like something in place that is like X many times means this means this, and lay that out to mom about like, you're on mini novice now, which yes, it's still novice, but it's harder scoring than tiny novice and it's more advanced and everything. And so we can't be at a tiny novice level. We can't be acting like that. We've discussed she is still tiny novice age. And so if that is the threat, I hate to use that word, but for her and or her mom, that like, if this many practices, this happens this many times, mom, you can be in here observing it. So we're not making it up. Then she's either going to be moved down to tiny novice or removed from the gym. And like, I think it would need to be standard like that. So it's not just like, oh, they just don't want Ayana. And mom needs to be present to see it and maybe hopefully help behavior with mom in there. and sorry, Callie, I don't want to pawn her off on you, but
Yeah,
we
poor
can,
Callie.
once, if that happens, we'll help you out too.
I had her last year and I know like she is definitely a challenge. I think her mom is pretty understanding though with like how she acts for the most part. Because like I know her mom's pretty strict on her. I think I told Riley about it. The one day she like came into Tots crying because her mom had just like yelled at her before. Like, so I know her mom is like aware of how she acts for the most part. So she should be understanding, like if you do have to set something like that in place.
She will usually say, I'm gonna call your mom, and she's
And
like, she's, I think she's like scared of her.
And you may need to bring her for a session, have a chair and have her mom just right there in.
Like in the gym.
In the gym, right at the X.
Mhm.
And literally, you have to do what you have to do. And I had one practice like that, and it was the best practice ever because the
Yeah.
child was very well behaved.
Kids act different with their, even for senior age
Able to
kids.
get away with
acts
that,
different.
unfortunately, I think from her younger years, and it's always been, oh, she's so cute, look at her go, she's doing
Yeah.
her own thing, and now she's just keeping.
Well, and I think it's been like Ayana's bad. And so
And-
now she's just like, yeah, I'm bad. Let me show you I'm bad. Like
She gets attention being bad,
Yeah.
but now you've got to.
she's like owning up to whatever
name.
thinks that she is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel badly for the other kids because they deserve to have a really good, solid routine. And if you have one person that just is that oddball, that's
Yeah.
tough.
Mhm.
I've had to have a discussion with a parent not on behavior, but it was skill, and the mom understood, and she actually stepped out off the team because the child wasn't ready.
Mhm. And I think like, again, like mentioned at the last meeting, but parent communication and being open and honest with them, like it's so scary. I still hate it, but like, it's so needed whenever they feel in the dark and left out, and you're just like, okay, and now she's off the team because of bad behavior. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me? Where was all these steps? But if you are like, we're willing to work with you, why don't you come and watch, and here's what we're thinking, like, and communicate that, they are going to be more understanding and work with you. Not saying that she's gonna pull her off the team, but I think like any next step you take in discipline or anything will be, yes, and more like it will be received better if her mom's involved.
Is it better to catch at the beginning of the practice, at the end of the practice, or have a separate call? How would you handle it?
I'm thinking like maybe the first time is like messaging her mom, just like reaching out, and then if that doesn't help, then just like having a meeting
My
outside.
Sorry.
Commissioner.
my suggestion for Riley, we have talked about this a little bit before, and it could help other people, so I'll say it to everybody. My suggestion to Riley was reaching out to her mom and framing it as asking how coaches can better communicate and coach Ayana. So not framing it as she is so distracting and this and that, and we need her to do this and all of this stuff, but to say, hi, I noticed Ayana had a harder time at practice, and I want her experience to be better moving forward, and I want her to have a good time on the team and grow. Is there anything at home or school that works well for her, for like a reward system, a discipline, like action plan, certain words? Like I was telling Riley, sorry, I'm gonna try not to get too OT here, but I was telling Riley, like, I think maybe I didn't, that like there could be just like certain cue words that Ayana hears, like, just for example, some kids, when you say like, all right, time to put our toys away, they like throw a fit and they hate it. But if you start singing the cleanup song, they're like, oh, we're just cleaning up. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like bad example maybe to translate, I don't know. But like there could be something for her that in school her teacher says XYZ, and Ayana's all of a sudden like, okay, that her mom just needs to tell you, and then you're there and you say XYZ and she's like, oh, it's time to listen. Things like that mom might just have better insight on, and saying, how can I be better for Ayana, instead of Ayana needs to be better for me.
But basically, you're framing it, like you said, that, the mom's gonna be thinking, oh, so she must not be, you're not saying that she's bad, but the mom will be thinking, oh, they need help, she must be doing something.
Letting her know that she's like.
And that's very clever. Yeah, and she's really the only one that we're ever.
Yeah, like I thought we were gonna have a problem with Peyton, but she's been like good.
Yeah, like she was really good last practice. I was
Yeah.
like, "Ooh." Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? Anything, I guess, in the world of cheer scoring, anything?
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Avery.
You're welcome.
It took so long.
Sorry, I had distractions.
Oh,
I
it's
gotta go
okay.
look and see
Yeah, what fell from the
Yeah.
ceiling? No, that's okay. For everybody here, and then I'll let people know on band, but this was recorded. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be. And so it will be posted if you need to reference it back. I know, I'm glad I was out of the camera. It will be. Well, no, I actually don't know how, I think it goes to like the cloud or something, so I might just have to post how to access it, but you'll have access to it somehow. Thank you guys for coming, and as always, if you have any questions on this or anything else, just let me know. Cool, thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.